How are you guys doing?
Good, good. It's nice to talk to you.
Good. I'm Cortland, Jacoby from Punch Drunk Critics. Sorry, I'm in Virginia actually, where the show is set and where you guys filmed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why is it called Punch Drunk Critics?
Like the movie.
Oh, like Punch Drunk Love.
Yeah, like Punch Drunk
Love. I love that movie where he takes the golf club and.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
So you guys play Rick Mountcastle and Randy Ramsire. How did you guys both get involved in Dopesick?
I was in Vermont. It was COVID, and Danny, called me up and we had a nice long conversation. We had friends in common. I was a huge fan of him. I really believed that he was like a guy who could do this. I had a personal connection to it through a family member, through the issue. And I'd also done a small documentary for Epics in 2016 about the opioid crisis in Dayton. So I then read the book and it was really, a no-brainer. I mean, of course I wanted to do it.
Of course.
The issue was important. The character was important. I rarely get to play a decent human being.
That is true. That is very, very true.
Yeah.
John, what about you?
Well, of course, I've been following the opioid crisis like much of America for many, many years. And I'm from North Carolina, another part of the country that has been deeply affected by it. And when the show came down and I knew that Michael was attached to it and Peter was attached to it and Danny was attached to it, I was very excited at the prospect of getting to be a part of it. Danny looked at me for a couple different roles before offering me Randy. And I think, the combination of a guy like Danny and Beth working together to put this story out there, combined with talents like Peter and with Michael, made it something that the import was backed up by the talent. And I hope that will draw eyes to the project and kind of help people sort of refocus on the devastating and the personal impact of the opioid crisis. I always say, I think that, the problem is this is something that's gone on for so long and affected so many families that it's such a fact of life in our country that people almost kind of don't talk about it. We don't talk about it enough. We've heard about the opioid crisis so often and for so long that it's kind of become background noise. And I think the important thing about this is it sort of corrects the narrative with regards to people who suffer from opioid addiction. And so I'm really glad that the story's getting out there and that we're getting to tell it.
Your characters have such an interesting working relationship on the show and chemistry. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it froze up on you there for a second.
But I snapped and it came back.
Snapped, he did the magic.
Great, your magic.
Yeah.
You guys have such a good working relationship and interesting chemistry on the show. Talk to me about working with one another.
Well,
you hate each other, obviously.
Yeah. It honestly, I mean, I was going to say something silly, but it was a highlight for me of the show and an unexpected one. It's COVID, you're not sure if you're allowed to hang out with anyone off set. It's like you can barely hear anyone on set. We're wearing masks and shields and plexiglasses around us and all this stuff. And somehow through all of that, we made a total connection as friends. We still send each other goofy pictures all the time and stupid jokes abound. And it's just like sometimes you really get along with someone you're acting with. I mean, it's like, and nothing can stop it. And hopefully that will wind up on screen and
Yeah, it does.
It's fun for us too to get to play these two guys who arrived to us on the page as very different individuals. That's sort of opposites attract sort of buddy comedy kind of thing. Not that it was a comedy, but that sort of gave us the opportunity to provide viewers with a breath of fresh air, because it is very, very heavy subject matter. And it also, the function of our role is to kind of illustrate for the viewer how this thing builds over time.
Right.
And you need that to be in a less intense environment than the rest of the subject matter that the show deals with that.
Right, because obviously these guys are personally affected. They're meeting people who are victims of this. They're encountering the bureaucracy, and that is infuriating. But you know, these are also two guys who are working a job and have a relationship.
Yeah, and a rapport. John, can you talk to me a little bit more about finding the levity and humor in the show? Like, I would say your character is a little bit more jokey than Peter's.
What?
Just a little bit.
Well, the jokes aren't funny unless I don't smile.
Yeah, you are the straight man. That is true.
Well, you know, Danny's such a great writer. As I read this role, and I actually got to reach out to Randy, and we had a little Zoom meeting encounter, and he is a fun, sort of laid back presence. And I love the way that he is able to sort of disarm people with this kind of easygoing Southern demeanor. You know, it gets him in the room, and people don't expect for him to be this kind of savvy, hard-nosed, investigative lawyer, which in fact he is. So I had the encounter with him, but I also, that is kind of a wonderful character that we see in various shows and movies throughout time. So it was really fun to get to sort of bring that to life. And though I did have interaction with him, I wouldn't say that I was trying to do a Randy Ramsire imitation.
Neither one of us were doing anything like that. I mean, it really was more important that we have a rapport. I mean, I didn't even know that I was going to be Southern in the show until I met this guy, because like my roots are Southern, and my dad's from Mississippi. My mom's from Memphis. My whole family is Southern. I grew up with a little bit of an accent, and like that part of me came out the minute I was in the room with this guy. And like I opened my mouth the first day, and I was like, oh, it seems like I'm going back to my roots. And you know, you meet Rick, and he doesn't really come across that way. But it was, like I said, when you're playing a real person, the thing that is most important is that you be truthful to yourself. It's not really about trying to be them on any level. Nobody expects me. I mean, clearly no one expected me to look like Rick Mountcastle, because we do. If I tried to look like Rick Mountcastle, all people would have been doing is going, oh, wow, what did he do to himself? He looks way prettier.
But one thing that I really loved about the show, obviously, you know, it follows 5 different perspectives on the opioid crisis and with OxyContin in general. I love that you guys kind of have like the true crime kind of aspect to it. Did it feel like you guys were shooting a detective show like while you guys were going?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, to me, one thing that I've always really enjoyed as an actor, I remember watching like old Steve McQueen movie.
Yeah.
He would like walk into a room, in my favorite scenes, you know, he doesn't have any lines. He walks into a room, fills a coffee cup, it's still a little bit warm. He looks down, the bed's unmade. You know, like all that information gathering.
Right.
And he realizes something and he walks out the door. To me, that's like my favorite kind of scene to act. And so like, this is that on some level, collecting information, working together and going like, I know what we should do. We should do this. And I like, to me, that's just like.
It's better storytelling. 2 + X = 4.
Exactly.
Right. Right. Over the last couple of years, the Sackler family, which is obviously behind Purdue Pharma, has been slowly losing their anonymity and getting more of the deserved blame for the crisis. In September of this year, a judge granted the family immunity from lawsuits by the victims' families. Do you hope the show garners more public support? I mean, that's obvious, but what side effects do you hope that the show has?
Well, I do think that the only way that the only thing that really registers with these companies are when individuals face punishment. When companies get fines,
Right.
that doesn't actually truly affect anyone. This latest judgment against the Sacklers, which seems like a large number, is largely being paid for by money that was earmarked for charitable contributions. And in fact, I was told the other day that after all this is paid in the next couple of years, they might even have more money than they currently have.
And
So-
most of the money that's paid out will be split up by state and local governments and the federal governments, and the people who were actually
Won't get
directly
any.
affected won't get much at all.
Right.
Yeah. So I do think that it really comes down to holding individuals responsible.
And if they're held responsible only in the court of public opinion, then it will have been something.
Yeah.
But they, as you pointed out, are losing their anonymity.
Right.
Yeah. Be interesting to see some of these institutions that have their Sackler wings, what they're going to do about it.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. Guys, thank you so much for talking with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.